Hi there. I am the Explicit Empress. I am an emotional and spiritual health advisor. I do birth chart analysis as well as get a bit more magical with intuitive tarot reading the energy. I am here because of a TikTok response that had to be made. Because if there is one thing I enjoy, it is analyzing a birth chart. And another thing that I enjoy is being correct or helping somebody else be correct. And if I can combine those two things and help somebody else be correct while analyzing a birth chart, that is one of my most favorite things. So the fact that this little research project that I've been on for a few days contains not only two of my favorite things, but it also contains my favorite AFL community, which is the Carlton Blues, and a bunch of young men who I think are playing a huge part in the realignment of energy on a collective basis. So this is literally me getting the whole damn bakery and eating every single cake. So thank you for your very short video of these predictions, Terry. And I'm going to get real deep and universal with it. So if this is something that interests you, please stick around because this video, making it, the research that I did was very enjoyable. And I cannot wait to see how it plays out, which is, I am sure, how Terry felt when he made his very short video. Okay, so we were talking about 5 players that are being predicted by Terry to make a huge impact, to be a leader, to be huge in the next 5 years. So let's get started with the first one mentioned, which was number 5 on Terry's list, Tom De Koning. Okay, so Terry says that he'll have figured out how to use his body and he will be an aerial threat. So let's take a deep look at Tom De Koning. Now, side note, I obviously do not have every single piece of their birth details. I am just going off what is available to me on the wide world of the internet, because to get a proper and very correct birth chart, I need a time of birth and a place of birth, not just a birth date. So we are running off the information that is available to me, which is, I would say, between 85 and 95% correct. Okay. So looking at Tom De Koning, who is a Cancer Sun placement, let's take a look at some of the parts of a birth chart that I think are particularly interesting to these AFL players. Now, looking at this from the perspective of the 5 years, how they're going to be in the future, we need to look at the North Node. Now, the North Node in a birth chart is representative of our most aligned future, our most destined path, and where we will find the most soul fulfillment from the journey that we are on. So, Tom De Koning's North Node is in Leo. When you have a North Node in Leo, this makes your lifetime purpose to be courageous and to let yourself shine in front of a crowd, to bring creative and positive change and to influence other people. This is the energy of needing to be a leader that can make a huge impact on a lot of people. Now, with a North Node in Leo, that gives you a South Node in Aquarius. Now, Aquarius South Node brings with it some karmic lessons of having not paid attention to your own convictions. And it brings with it that in this life, in this physical life that he is currently living, he is being tasked to stand on his own will, to stand up for his own convictions. Now, his North Node in Leo rules his 11th house, which is the ruler of his friendship groups, of team environments. So this means that he is going to learn how to move forward towards this divine destiny of being a leader and making a huge impact while standing in his own conviction. He's going to learn that best by being part of a group that shares his interests. So I would say he's right on track for that. The next part of a birth chart, particularly interesting to sports players, is the Capricorn energy. Capricorn energy is discipline energy, and it is where we get that hard work vibe from. So when you look at a chart, that is where you look to find that. Now, Capricorn rules his 4th house, which is the house of family, the house of roots, the house of like ancestor and feeling part of a family. So he will be empowered to work hard from a place of discipline when he is in an environment that feels like a family to him. And if there's one thing that Carlton have created within their ranks, it is a family vibe, not only within its team, but also within its supporters. Okay, so the next part we look at is the Mars energy. So Mars on a birth chart is representative of where we take action, how we initiate, our leader energy, masculine energy qualities, okay? And very important, particularly to this sort of sport, because the overall energy of these sorts of contact sports is Aries energy, is Mars energy, okay? So Tom has a Mars in Scorpio, and that sits in his first house along with his Chiron placement. So if you've ever seen any of my other videos, a quick rundown, Chiron is our wounded healer. It is the part inside of us that we have created emotional programs around from traumas and physical things that have happened to us in the physical world from the ages of about 3 to 23. It's like the way we have programmed ourselves to react to certain things, okay? And the healing of that programming, the understanding, the deep knowing of that programming transmutes into a power that we can then share with other people. It is the part of us that outside of the spiritual astrological world, people will say things like, to mature and to be in a place of being able to lead, you need to have been through hardships. That's kind of what Chiron represents in a birth chart, okay? So Tom has a Scorpio placement in his first house here. So this means that he is somebody who will talk a big game, but he will follow up with action. So anything that he puts out there that he says he wants to achieve, he will show you that he's going to do that through taking action. Now, this Chiron in Scorpio placement is the wound of control. And once it is transmuted into power, it allows the person to feel empowered and to no longer be trying to overpower others. And it helps, it helps you not be giving your power away to other people, to thoughts that you can't control, to situations and things that hold you back. It is about a self-empowering, deep knowing inside of you. So from this positioning of healing this Chiron wound is where he will be able to take action towards being a leader. So he will be a leader that shines creatively in front of everyone, very well in part of a team. He'll be very disciplined about it, but he will be doing it from that place of shining bright, like his whole essence shining bright, okay? So then I got really into it. So we can look up where eclipses are going to happen. And eclipses, a little short bit of astrology information. Eclipses happen within the two nodes of the moon. So the highest and the lowest point of the moon are called, that is where we see the north and the south node, which I mentioned up first, okay? We do have another video up on that if you get more interested in these north and south node complexes and what we can learn from them. But for now, we are looking at the north and the south node, which is where their positions are and where the eclipses take part. Now, eclipses, things that we can predict. We can see when they are coming. We know when they're happening because we can map the universe. That's science. Now, eclipses in astrology are what bring about sudden but fated, because we know they're coming, sudden but fated events and unexpected events that shake up our existence in order to transform. And in astrology, we can look at our mapping and we can see where these axis is positioned for us, and we can see what it is that we will be transforming. I hope you're still with me. So Terry said 5 years. So I have mapped out 5 years worth of North and South Node movement and the eclipse seasons that are going to take place for these players as they move forward through their energies. And they are very juicy in my mind. So the current axis that we are dealing with is the Libra Aries nodal axis. So this started July 18, 2023, and it will finish January 11, 2025. Okay, So for Tom, the activations inside of his particular birth chart are going to be working on and transforming his outward appearance, his sense of how he expresses himself, and how others see him, and his relationship with his physical body. It's going to show him how he builds relationships, and he will be looking at making long-term commitments and creating a mutual give and take inside of them. That's what he's currently working on. Then the axis will move to Virgo and Pisces, and this will be from January 2025 until July 2026. We are going into the future here, okay? We are time traveling. So this is going to be a transformative time for him in how he finds emotional fulfillment, what his emotional desires and needs are. So it's going to be a development for him on a very deep soul level, and it's going to change how he views himself, and in turn, how he presents that to the world through his ego self. Okay? This is also going to then be working on places where he is building healthy relationships with his body on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level. And this is the proof of what Terry is saying, that he's going to start learning how to use his body. This is really when he's going to start beginning to understand and build a confident relationship with his body. All right, because this is going to signify where that part of him, this alignment with his ego self and relationship with his body, how it aligns with his ideal career and his emotional needs. Okay, now the interesting part here is that being a Cancer sun sign, this is a heightened risk for emotional stress. Okay, a Cancer sun sign is somebody who has a lot of underlying emotional situations going on, but they find it very hard to express this energy. So if you know anything about the zodiac, Cancer is represented by a crab, soft inside, hard shell. Okay, so they put this, they build this hard shell around their emotional needs. And with Cancer energy, they intuitively feel a lot of things. So they're very emotional people. They do not show it a lot of the time because of the hard shell. So they are constantly in a place of emotional stress in an underlying state. And this, as we know, as science knows, as medicine knows, the effect of stress on the human body can lead to physical health problems. So if we get to this time, January 2025 to July 2026, and he is at a place of emotional imbalance, then it is highly likely that there will be some physical health issues coming up in order to show him how to best align his emotional state, because eclipses are designed to realign us with our future purpose. And if we are out of alignment, this is when we see sudden and unexpected events, which for sports players is often injury or some kind of health concern that realigns their whole purpose. All right, so during this time he is going to have to develop some really healthy emotional coping skills to avoid injury, to avoid health concerns. And it's my prediction that if he's going to face any unexpected and kind of sudden injuries and health concerns, it will be during this time. Now the positive of this situation is that Vossi is a Cancer sun as well, and part of the overall energy of the Carlton team is this Cancer energy, which really does embody a nice feeling of emotional belonging. And everybody can feel it, I think, when you see Vossi talking, that he is that, I want to say, father energy. He's very open to that kind of keeping everybody aligned. And so the positive is that with him there in that father energy, that we will be able to see these young men develop healthy emotional coping skills, so that then we're not leading to the physical injury. Okay, so then after we are dealing with that, we move on to the next axis, which is July 2026 into the future, okay, to March 2028. And this will be the Leo Aquarius axis. And for Tom, this is activating some really fun parts of his chart. So if he has a hard 18 months on that last axis, this is going to be where that work will pay off. This is going to be a very transformative year, but it's happening in the places on his chart that are about fun and pleasure and self-expression within friendships and clubs and social groups. So this is where he will really start feeling at home and being able to confidently not only dream up revolutionary innovations, but it's also going to allow him to be able to communicate those things and to be able to learn about the best ways to do that. So he will have this journey that's going to point him in the direction of his aligned purpose within the team and within a feeling of pleasure during this time. Then we get to, I think, is probably going to be one of the hardest axes, not only for these sports players, but literally for all of us, okay? And that is the Cancer Capricorn axis. And this is happening from March 2028 until September 2029. So this is kind of that big build up towards, Terry's 5-year predictions, okay? Now, this one in particular happens in career and family and ego self for Tom. So this season is going to be about him searching and aligning himself with his ego. So searching for what that looks like for him and realigning that. And this is going to be to make him feel safe and secure within himself and within all of the places that he feels is a family environment for him. Okay, and this is that look for home and safety, that look for nurturing, that look for complete acceptance, that kind of look for that energy, okay? And this is, where we will start seeing that this is his career and his social status. And it's going to start him really thinking about his roadmap to leaving a legacy. All right. So this is Terry on point so far. Okay. Then the next and probably one of the most challenging periods is the Gemini Sagittarius. And that's happening September 2029 until March 2031. Now, this one's going to be particularly challenging for Tom because this is a deep reevaluation of his inner world. And this is transformations of his ideas of self-worth, of his ideas of financial and material worth. So this is when he will be realigning his idea about where he finds value through communication and education within the community. And this is where he will find a voice to speak to the world on, a confident, mature voice. And because this is happening in his 8th and 9th house, this will embody not only a deep transformation, but also a search for higher purpose, also a search for his purpose. He will start aligning with his purpose here. So this is going to be huge steps for him in finding that long-term security and developing this higher mind quality of his. Now, another point that is worth talking about, particularly for most of these players will experience it while they are shining brightly within this AFL career journey of theirs, is a Saturn return. And I won't go too deeply into it because it is quite a deep one, but basically a Saturn return, quite light. It's the complete upheaval of who you are as a person. It is that moment, it happens between the ages of about 27 and 31. And it is that complete realignment where you take your individual self out of the community, out of your family world, and you start aligning with who you are. So for these young men, who they are as a man on their own. And Tom's will be happening from at some point between May 2030 and July 2032. So this Gemini Sagittarius axis, that huge transformation of his inner world and his values, will be leading him up to his Saturn return. So I think you're right on the Tom one, Terry. I think you've got it. I think his journey is going to be very interesting. And I think he's going to come out the end very aware of his body, very aware of his leadership qualities from that place of lighthearted fun and pleasure, because I think he's in a team environment that will support his need for family support. So let's have a look at your next number 4 list, Terry. This is Adam Cera. Now, Terry says that he will just continue to learn and expand on these ideas of the fundamentals, and that he will be one of the leaders of the club. So let's have a look at it. So let's look at his North Node, which is in Leo as well, which is the same as Tom's. So that means his life purpose is to be courageous, is to shine in front of a crowd, to create positive change, and to be an influence on others. This is leader energy that can make a huge impact. So that South Node in where the karmic lessons are needing to pay attention to your convictions and being tasked to stand on your own will. Now, the difference here is that his North Node in Leo rules his 7th house. So that means, so Tom's was his 11th, which is the house of friendships and teamwork, and Adam's is his 7th house, which means that he needs to learn these things, learn how to shine, learn how to be a leader through partnerships and relationship building, and through making long-term commitments with people, with placements, with places, and like with career. So long-term commitment energy is where he learns to be his best leader. Okay, so his Capricorn energy, his discipline energy, rules his 1st house. Okay, so this is the sense of discipline that can be found through being able to express himself through a filter of his own egoic creativity, being able to be himself, being able to shine his full essence. And so his positions of leadership will come from being able to maintain a confident relationship with his physical body and with his self-image, that whole ego vibe. His best leader energy, his best leadering discipline energy will be found through allowing that, through maintaining that relationship with his ego in a way where he controls what it does, not where it controls him. Then he has a Mars in Sagittarius. Now that sits in Sagittarius with Pluto and Chiron. So again, the same as Tom, his Mars energy and his Chiron wounding in the same energy. Now, Mars in Sagittarius is take action energy. It's that leap of faith with that fire burning for adventure. It's being somewhat triggered to rage very quickly, and it's really... it's that spark, okay? Sagittarius energy, the arrow, right? The arrow shooter. We shoot an arrow into the distance. So that's where his masculine energy comes from. His aggression, his leadership qualities comes from there. So this Chiron and Pluto placement in Sagittarius. Now, a Chiron in Sagittarius is a tough one for a professional sports player because it makes him have very high expectations for himself. And this is the energy of not feeling like there's any limits to how far he can go. Now, while that is an excellent energy, this can cause a struggle because Chiron and Pluto is the underworld, our subconscious lands, our fears, desires, addictions. And so with Chiron and Pluto together here with this Sagittarius energy, it can really cause him a struggle to not be able to enjoy a moment of success, to not be able to stand in a present moment and really enjoy and have a moment of exploration and feeling good and proud about what he's achieved, because in his mind he's always telling himself he can do better, he can do more, he can do more, and it can cause this problem where you push too hard. So we're working on this Chiron wound for him. It needs to take place where his ambition can be realized with cooperation from a group, and so the group needs to share his vision, and all together they can work together to help him be able to take these moments of being present and enjoying himself. So then let's look at the progression of the eclipse cycles and the nodes for him. So currently, so Libra, Aries, so July 2023 to January 2025. So he's currently in a season of transformation of his social status, of his career, of his achievements. And this is about where he will be finding a sense of himself and his idea of what family and roots means to him. So within companionship, within teamwork, within also his actual family, and how they will align with his professional goals. So it's aligning his ego self with a sense of authority and presenting that, how he wants to present that to a greater collective is where he currently is. Then we will move on to Virgo Pisces, so January 2025 until July 2026. And this will be a transformation and understanding of his non-negotiable emotional needs and desires. And this is where he will need to learn how to communicate instinctively and become more aware of how he perceives the world. All right. And this is going to be some really inner world development while he has this search for safety and purpose. And it's going to be a time where he's going to learn that his opinions, particularly for his Chiron placement, his opinions about the way that he thinks about himself are not always fact. And that no matter what his emotional reaction is to his self facts, they are still somewhat his opinion toward himself. And there's going to be him really needing to look into the idea of chronic dissatisfaction coming from this idea that he can always do more, and that he will really start needing to look at being able to enjoy his achievements in the present. So that will be a pivotal moment for him, because the next axis could be particularly troubling and very interesting for him. It's going to be on the Leo Aquarius, and it's going to be between July 2026 and March 2028. Now, this is particularly interesting for him because it involves his worth, his deep subconscious, how he rebels, and also getting him very aligned with his future goals. So this is going to be a transformational time for him in relationship building. It's going to be moments of really lightning realizations about how he looks at his own ideals around surrender and escape. It's going to be transformative for him about learning what sort of creativity he is actually capable of in order to move towards his soul destiny, which is that making an impact and being a leader, okay? So this is realignment where he's going to be finding his value and worth within relationships that transform him. And it's going to see a number of very pivotal moments for him that are going to be designed to completely transform his idea about self-worth and his ideas about his material value. And with Neptune in Aquarius here, we can really see some rebellious change, some unexpected things coming up. And this energy also rules the rage that comes up in our body with realizations that we need to let go of old behaviors. So it could be a very interesting time for Adam during the Leo Aquarius eclipse cycle. Now, then we see the Cancer Capricorn, which is March 2028 until September 2029. Now so after he has done that deep rebellious transformation, he gets this season, which is the realignment of his house of self and house of partnerships. And so this is going to be an emotionally driven time for him, and it's going to be about learning to find validation within and learning to be disciplined towards his long-term commitments. And those long-term commitments within business, love relationships, friendship relationships, any kind of relationships that are long-term. So this is where there will be a lot of challenges for him, where he needs to surrender in order to get balance. And with his Chiron in Sagittarius being that voice in his head that tells him that he can always do more, this will be a challenge for him. So hopefully during that Leo Aquarius, he really does let go of a lot of these ideas of always being able to achieve more and learn how to enjoy the present. Because then once he gets to this, it'll be a really nice, smoother transition into that balance, into that ego and relationship building for him. Then Gemini Sagittarius comes after that. So that's September 2029 until March 2031. So this is going to be a very deep wound healing in the underworlds of Pluto for him. And this is going to be the awakening of his masculine energy of initiation and action taking, but from an understanding of finding his success enjoyable. So this is that time where he will face health issues in regards to not finding satisfaction if he remains unbalanced. And it's that energy of really seeing, and the universe will provide these moments if he hasn't learned them already, what pushing yourself too hard does to your health. And that we need to develop a relationship with our physical body, our mental body, our emotional body, and our spiritual bodies in order to bring this balance and have an overall health. And he will need to, during this time, and he will be assisted to by the universe of the energy, allow himself to understand his kind of hidden strengths and weaknesses. And he will have to, this will be when he learns to release this fear of not achieving enough. And he will really learn how to be present in his achievements. And just like Tom, that Sagittarius Gemini season leads him up into his Saturn return, and he will come out the other side of that, I believe, from looking at this progression. I believe that he's in the right environment. He's got the right people around him. I mean, currently right now where it stands, that will help him grow through this, and that he will come out of this the other end exactly as Terry predicted, a really amazing leader that can help people learn how to be present in their achievements. And then we get to a chart that I have looked at through a number of filters a number of times, but I've not looked at it quite this deeply. And everybody who looks at this player, you see this energy in him. You just do not see it through my vision. So let me help you out. Number 3 on your list, Terry, the great Charlie Curnow. Okay. Now, firstly, his chart fully aligns with his skills and ability and the way that he presents himself. And there are many reasons for that. And Terry says that we will see what we see now is what we're going to see consistently. I believe that's what he says. There are many very interesting points of Charlie's chart, and let's just get started on them. So his North Node is in Libra in his 6th house. This sits there with his Mars energy, so his masculine energy, and also his 7th house, okay? So his lesson here with a North Node in Libra, which, side note, I have a video up about having a North Node in Libra. A lot of people around the same age as Charlie have one, so make sure you check that video out so that you can also align with your best future, just as Charlie is. Okay, so this is that lesson of needing to self-sacrifice, and it is about building a future that is strong in harmonious relationships. It is about learning the we energy, the I balance energy, over the I am energy. So it's about looking at a collective rather than looking at yourself, okay? And this is in his 6th house, which rules your relationship with your body. So your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body, and your relationship to those things. And it's the house of being of service to others. Now, a Mars in Libra, and having that in his 7th house, Mars in Libra in the 7th house, means that he will take action through an energy of balance and building partnerships is where he takes his best action. And that his comfortability in leadership is in a place where he can mediate, where he can balance relationships and show other people how to do that. Libra is that kind of teaching by the joy of showing people something that you have passion about, okay? That's where they teach from. That's where they lead from. And in the 7th house of partnerships for him is that creating balance of two forces, is that mediator energy. So he will take his best action and be most comfortable as a leader in a position of being able to mediate between people. So in relation to AFL, being able to kind of be that mediator in between, you know, coach and player, or players that are having disagreements, because Libra energy in a Mars is very much about balance, okay? Then this is the first chart here on this list that we look at, a stellium, and a stellium is very present across a number of successful sports players, and it is when you have more than one placement in the same zodiac part of your chart, okay? So Charlie has two. He is a Capricorn, Aquarius, stellium. And the other part of his chart that is completely aligned are his houses. So we have 12 houses, each representative of something else: house of self, house of partnerships, on and on we go. Each of those has a zodiac energy ruler, and it's not very often that it happens, but in Charlie's, every single one of those is aligned, meaning that the house is being ruled by the energy that best rules it. And so it really puts these people very aligned with who they are as people, very aligned with their mission, and very aligned in how they communicate, because they are communicating through the best energy. So that, mixed with his stellium placements, puts him in a really good position to be able to progress faster than other people, because a stellium placement is where we sort of see each part of us speaking the same language to each other. So just if I use 3 as an example: your sun, your moon, and your Mercury. Your sun being your ego, your moon being your emotional state, and Mercury being how you communicate. If each of those are in a different zodiac, so if we go, say, Virgo, Scorpio, Sagittarius, those 3 energies are all different. They all kind of speak a different language, if you want to imagine it that way. So that means that we need our emotional self and our ego self, and how we communicate, all need to learn each other's language. Whereas if they are in the same placement, if they are all Virgo or Sagittarius, then they already speak the same language. So we become more confident in a lot of things faster than other people, because we begin to understand ourselves faster. So Capricorn, Aquarius, stelliums, houses aligned. It's a very magical chart. So his Capricorn energy is one of his stelliums, which is his discipline energy. So this is in his 10th house, which means his best discipline comes through his social status, comes through career. And his Mercury, Venus, and Neptune as well. So this is meaning he finds his discipline through his ambition and career, and as long as that career aligns with what he wants to achieve. Now, this has to also be places that he is devoted to, and places that he sees himself being a leader. That is where he will find his best discipline energy. And so his ability to communicate this sense of authority that he has over himself through partnerships, through relationships, is coming from a place where he is able to build profound emotional connections, and from a place of compassion and sacrifice for others. So his best discipline energy is from a place of being able to take action through social status, through teams, by being a leader that builds emotionally profound connections with people through balancing them out, through mediating. Now, this is also here in his stelliums are his ego self and his essence, and how he expands and how he adapts to change. And all of this is aligned as well with his social status and his career. So this makes him very adaptable in his career. So he could fit into this collective however he needs to fit. He will always be able to find balance and find a place inside of it, because of this ability to adapt to lightning change. So he will always be able to find comfort in himself and find his inner self and his inner voice, regardless of any collective upheaval that goes on in the group, as long as it is a place that he can be devoted to being a leader, being this mediator energy between people. As long as that stays steady for him, he can adapt to anything else. So that's already magical for him. And it is one of the more magical sports player charts that I have seen. Then we can look at his eclipse axes. So currently July 2023 to January 2025. Now, this is a very particularly interesting one, because this means that he is in the midst of a transformation of his reputation and how people see him. Also, how he builds relationships and makes long-term commitments. So he has started to do some inner work where he's changing his values and his rule structures around his idea of what leadership and masculine energy are to him, and how that helps him take action towards his future goals. So during these times, these like fated and sudden events that happen, which are within the eclipse times, there would have been so far, because this has started in July, there would have been moments that the purpose of them were to align him with his future purpose, with his most aligned universal goal. And anyone following along on any of my other AFL astrology videos know that it was in July that they went down to Ed Curnow's, and that was a very pivotal moment in everybody's time with Carlton, and that was where that turnaround energy really came from. So the purpose of that for Charlie in particular was about aligning him with this future purpose, and in the idea of him being able to change these ideas of his value and rule structure and his ideas of leadership and masculine energy, which is very interesting to me. Then his next one is the Virgo Pisces. So the Virgo Pisces axis of January 2025 until July 2026. Now, this is going to be where he's going to need to learn on a very deep subconscious level how to build a healthy relationship with his body, mind, spirit, and emotional self. And this is that energy of being able to experience personal growth toward an ideal career by being of service to others and by learning about your uncovered strengths and weaknesses. So that will be his concentration for that. It's quite light for him during that season. And then he moves on to the Leo Aquarius axis, which is July 2026 until March 2028. Now, this is going to be a fun one for him as well. This is happening in his pleasure house, in his friendship groups. And it's going to really allow his self-expression to come out. And it will change his ego structure a little. And it's going to bring about sort of like lightning realizations about how he wants to expand. And because this involves Jupiter, which is the planet of luck, wealth, and status, and that will be aligning his capacity for innovation. And it's going to allow him to find a lot of pleasure in how he shakes things up and how he brings this new self out. Now, for him, this is when his Saturn return takes place. So I'm not surprised at all that this is going to be a shake-up for him in where he finds pleasure and how he adapts to change and expansion. So yeah, his Saturn return will happen at some point between February 2026 and April 2028. And that is when this energy of lightning change and realizations about how he wants to expand is going to show up. Then we get to the Cancer Capricorn axis, which is March 2028 until September 2029. And this is going to be a change in social status. So, and relating to his career path and his sense of roots. So after he's in his Saturn return, of course, this makes sense as well, that this will be what happens next. And this is like the idea of aligning your career path with your sense of roots, your sense of tradition, your sense of family. There's often a lot of big family movement and recognition during these activations on our charts. And this is where relationships will be built and communication will be given and received that will really start building profound emotional connections after this adaptation of his new self, this like really stepping into that, who he wants to be as an adult, who he wants to be seen as a man. And this is going to teach him about his new forms of creativity that he didn't even know he was capable of. And this is that energy of him being able to step into that leader place and learn new skills about himself while he's in that place. And it will be about, finding a sense of justice and new ideas of his financial worth as well, and really looking at how he wants to leave a legacy and really planting roots in order to find a place where he will feel safe and nurtured in the long term. And so Terry's prediction here on point yet again, because this is that time when he is going to figure out what legacy he wants to leave, not only for himself, but for the club, and how he wants to move forward there. And really with this energy of being a mediator and being able to build relationships, I do believe it will be in some sort of leadership role within the team. So then, we see the Gemini Sagittarius, which is September 2029 until March 2031. And of course, for him, this is deep huge transformation energy, because of course he will have figured out where he wants to leave his legacy in the Cancer Capricorn, and this will be him adapting to that on a deep level. And it's going to help him heal the Chiron wound that he has, which is around being in control and needing to have power. And that Chiron wound is the fear of not having those things. So this is going to involve him building a really healthy relationship emotionally and spiritually with himself, and learning how to take action and communicate those needs and values that come with them, how to communicate those to the people around him so they can best support him. And this is going to be a time where he really learns that those wounds that involve that fear of loss, fear of not being in control, how those fears affect his emotional and spiritual balance, and how he needs to progress through those wounds and heal those wounds in order to be more initiative towards his future goal. So it will really be a time of him finding out about his true purpose and his value systems in order to learn how to enjoy the present and enjoy the journey that he has been on, without thinking that he needs to always achieve more. So on point again with that one, Terry. And then number 2 on your list, Terry, was Jacob Weitering. And you said that with time will come more appreciation for him, which is very interesting. Because his North Node is in Virgo. A Virgo North Node is very interesting. It's about needing to make your quiet ideas loud. It's about like seeking protection for those ideas, because you hold them very carefully, very repressed energy of holding those ideas. And it is the energy of perfectionism and learning to protect yourself through anticipating disappointment. And these, North Node Virgo people are very afraid of disappointing other people. And with a North Node in Virgo, you have a Pisces South Node. And the lesson here is to show people how to fuck up, for lack of a better way to say it. They are here to show people what you can learn from these mistakes, what you can learn and understand from a fuck up, and how you learn to let yourself be forgiven for them. They are really here to show us that being willing to make mistakes can really create a possibility that you didn't know could exist. And it's about bringing your spiritual aspects of life into the physical world, because this is an 8th house energy for him, and it's transformation about how relationships change us. Then we are going to look at the stelliums in this chart, which are Sagittarius and Capricorn. So a Sagittarius stellium here in his ego, how he communicates, and his deep shadowlands, his fears, addictions, his deep desires, are all aligned with his career and his social status, meaning that he will find himself and his comfort in communicating his deep needs and understanding his fears in places of his career and social spaces. Then his Capricorn energy, his discipline energy. Now, this is in his places of how he builds partnerships. This is where he will find his discipline and action taking through being able to dream up and create the partnerships and relationships that he desires on a very deep level. And it's going to be from a place of being goal orientated and feeling worthy, and from learning how to sacrifice himself for others, and learning through being compassionate how to build these emotional connections, and how to learn from past actions. Again, that energy of making mistakes and showing people that can teach you new things about yourself. And, this is on a deep kind of subconscious level as well, with Neptune involved. And it's his discipline coming from really understanding his addictive qualities, his fears, his fantasies, and, healing. So really taking action through a sense of discipline in this balance of building relationships and finding worth inside of those, okay? Then let's look at the eclipse axes for him. So currently, Libra Aries, so July 2023 to January 2025. This is where he's learning about connecting and communicating, and he's really getting to know himself on a deep level. He is learning about how he likes to articulate his ideas to the world and really learning some cold, hard realities of karma and justice. And with that North Node being his purpose, is to show people what we can learn from making mistakes. Learning these cold, hard realities right now are really important because they are aligning with where his ambition is and really looking at where he has challenges that he needs to overcome. And he's going to be seeing during this time, where it is that he doesn't want to give up and what it is that he represses that does make him give up. Okay, so learning where he doesn't want to, but also learning where he might be stopping himself. Okay, also realigning his values and his responsibility and really trying to find purpose through building his own values and ethics systems outside of everybody else's ideas. So really doing that on a deep level for him, which will come in handy with the next axis, the Virgo Pisces. So from January 2025 until July 2026, when he's going to start seeing like this, his emotional needs and desires needing to align with his destiny now, needing to align with what he wants for his future. He's going to have to get out of his comfort zone and really learn to find emotional fulfillment on a soul level. This is soul development energy, learning his instincts and what triggers him and what makes him feel safe. So he'll have to, this is going to start showing up in how he looks at his own self, his own self-esteem, as well as his material worth. And these two things will need to align during this time. He'll start seeing this material and inner self needs and wants and abilities, and he will have to start learning about how they relate to his self-esteem, how they relate to being able to do self-love, and how those two things help him speak up for himself. So this, with the 8th house being present in his Virgo Pisces axis, is very deep level transformation. It's very empowering transformation. 8th house transformation is burn to the ground, rise as a phoenix. So we will start seeing this shift in his energy during this time. And we could start seeing a little bit of rage showing up again with 8th house energy. There is a rage that comes with the realizations of things that you need to let go. And this is like really deep bonding, not only with himself and the commitments he makes to himself, but getting to see how those making deep commitments and bonds with others, how that can help transform his idea of self-love and self-value. Okay, and for him, that is when his Saturn return takes place. So his Saturn return is going to deeply involve really rapid and transformative moments and like explosive change, because this period for him is going to be about realigning him with his purpose, with his North Node. It's going to be a very interesting time, that axis. And then he will be, of course, this aligns as well after he's gone through those moments. The Leo Aquarius axis from July 2026 until March 2028 is going to be about finding his core beliefs. And it's going to involve him needing to overturn any sort of status quo idea and being able to confidently learn to let that shine, to let his own essence shine. And in turn, that will show up in his relationships. So this is going to be showing him what his principles are that he really wants to stand for, and where he belongs, where he feels like he belongs, and what sort of people they are. It's going to be through expansion and innovation. So really working with his physical body and self-image and developing that give and take in commitments and relationships in order to best find what his core beliefs are. So we could really see some huge change there, which of course, after your Saturn return, we generally need to completely realign with our purpose. Then the Cancer Capricorn axis, March 2028 until September 2029. Now, this is about, for him, being Venus, Mars, and Neptune involved here. It will be about balancing the feminine and masculine energies. So the feminine energies of emotional state, of intuition, of receiving, with the masculine energy of taking action, being a leader, initiating, being a giver, being a protector energy. And it's going to be about finding his comfort in being a leader. and finding his sense of justice and really learning what his values are and what triggers him into battle mode. And with these these three planets involved, it's his courage and it's his ambition that's going to be at play here, and it's going to have to come for him through this sacrifice of others, through his compassion to himself and also to the greater community. And he's going to be learning how to intuitively connect with people so that he can get to know himself. So as we intuitively connect with people, we start learning on a more deep subconscious level who we are, and really learning through that mirroring on a deep emotional level with other people, learning about our fears, learning about our addictions and our tendencies towards self-destruction as well. So these things will show up in relationships for him, but relationships with himself mostly. The relationship with his physical body, with his mental state, with his emotional body, with his spiritual self. And these things will need to be balanced during this time. And he's going to learn that through reactions that he has to adversity. And he's going to have a balanced perspective about all of this, because this is, his personal knowledge coming to the forefront here about his private strengths and about his private weaknesses, and how he can use those things if they are aligned, if they are emotionally and logically aligned, how he can use those things to work towards his ideal career. And like I've said about the Saturn return, that is where we tend to need to completely realign after we've had our Saturn return. Then Gemini Sagittarius, so September 2029 until March 2031. This is where he will have transformed, and this is where he will learn to use his ego and not be controlled by it. That is often an outcome of coming out of a Saturn return and going through these emotional transformations. And this is where he will be able to use his communication, use this knowing about the patterns of his own mind and this deep learning of his unconscious self and his instincts. He will be able to learn how these behaviors can show up either in a positive or in like an obsessive quality. And he's going to really have some explosive transformation during this time of his ego, and it'll come from how he has changed the way that he processes information. There is fun involved here. This is a 5th and 11th house, so he will be learning these kind of communications and deep kind of unconscious states of his and his instincts. He is going to be able to learn that through having fun in team environments, through being social, through building friendships. So it's an interesting one as far as I'm concerned. And finally, one of the more interesting charts in the Carlton team is Sam Walsh. Now, Terry says that provided he stays healthy, very interesting thing to say, Terry, he will continue to smash records. Now, that's a very interesting thing to say, because the stellium placements in Sam Walsh's charts are one of the most intense stelliums that I have seen across the whole AFL when I did all of their birth charts last year. Because he is a Cancer placement in all of his personal planets: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, as well as his North Node, his directional purpose. So Cancer energy has, as I said earlier in this video, has the high risk of physical injury and physical issues and health issues, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health issues, because of the complete emotional overload of its energy being unable to come out through the hard shell of Cancer. It's very interesting that Terry said as long as he stays healthy. So let's get into his chart. Let's look at his North Node, which of course is part of his Cancer stellium, ruling his 10th house, so his 10th house of career. So this is about finding purpose, having a North Node in Cancer, finding purpose, but also finding a solid foundation. So North Node in Cancer is someone who is born to experience the feeling of being truly cared for and truly caring for other people. It's wanting to build and nurture a home that they feel like they've always deserved. And so having a Cancer North Node puts Capricorn in your South Node. And this is the energy of needing to perform emotional release without embodying emotional vulnerability. So without being vulnerable, they need to be able to express their emotions. And it's these people are emotionally prepared for any scenario so that they can control their level of perceived vulnerability. So the other part that comes with this is an immense feeling of guilt for who they are and who they are not. And this comes from deep bonds within the family environment. And a Cancer North Node person is very afraid of appearing weak and very afraid of disappointing people. They are so guilty about this feeling of disappointment they go together. So not only are they afraid of disappointing someone, when they do, they feel a level of guilt for it. And so you can see here how these levels of emotions start getting overloaded, and that's where this stress comes from that can then impact health. So they could really feel like they have this kind of unspoken debt to people, and that it's theirs to bear alone and that it's theirs to fix, and that asking for help makes them appear powerless. And then again, that comes back down to they start feeling powerless, they start perceiving themselves as disappointing others, and it builds this feeling of guilt. Again, up comes the emotional overload. Now, the Capricorn South Node that comes with this North Node position, it only knows about work. And even though it is a position where these people are always successful, Capricorn South Node people are always successful because they they know how to disconnect from emotion in order to be disciplined towards work. Okay, and this is like someone who needs to find someone, and when they do, they will hold on to it with all their life. They need to find someone who can cut through that hard shell of the Cancer in order to bring out the vulnerability they need to express these emotions to stop these stressful emotional overloads. Now, this is all happening in his 10th house, which all happens in his career and social status, is where he's going to find his purpose. And it's going to lie in finding a solid foundation in a career, in his achievements, in his social status, and in leaving a legacy. So Cancer rules his 11th house of friendships as well, and social clubs, and his future orientated revolution. So he needs to be completely understood and needs to find a deep comfort in a team space in his career environment in order to best feel comfortable to bring out this vulnerability so that he can emotionally release. I do feel like he's in the right team for that. The Cancer energy, like I said, Vossi is Cancer. Part of the overall team energy of Carlton is a Cancer energy. It is quite a family environment. It is quite a nurturing space. So I think he's in the exact right team to be in order to be able to progress through and not deal with any medical or physical or mental or emotional challenges from this Cancer energy that represses things. So looking at all of this Cancer energy, all right, this is his ego self, his non-negotiable emotional needs, how he communicates, his intuition, his ideas of action, leadership. All of this is Cancer energy. So it all has to come from being accepted for the way that he expresses his emotional state, for the way that he rolls through. And Cancer energy is ruled by the moon, meaning it is changeable every 2.5 days, depending on where the moon is placement. So this is someone who is an emotional roller coaster, who feels guilty for disappointing other people and really needs to be accepted on all of these levels, how his emotions present through all of his levels, ego, communication. He needs to be accepted on all of those levels in order to best embody these qualities of leadership and moving forward into his best career. Now, his Capricorn energy is part of this, all right? So because he's a Cancer stellium, the opposite end of that axis is Capricorn. And so his discipline energy is very, very rooted in his family ideals, in this sort of karmic discipline instilled. He comes in with discipline instilled into him, right? South Node Capricorn. Capricorn is discipline. South Node is gifts from the past. So he has this karmic ideal of discipline. It comes with him to be disciplined, and it comes from his ancestors, from his roots, from the way that his family raised him. And he will be most disciplined when he is allowed the freedom of acceptance with who he is, and when he is allowed to express himself creatively. So sometimes it's going to be through a filter of not showing vulnerability. And it has to all happen in a space that he finds very fun, very joyful, and very pleasurable. So as long as he's enjoying the game and enjoying being part of the team, he is in a really safe space to be able to progress through the danger of all of this Cancer energy. So the axis of eclipse for him is very interesting. Currently Libra Aries, so July 2023 until January 2025. This is learning about his ego, learning about how his ego might control him, what his idea of leadership looks like, and this is transformation in how he is seen and his outward appearance and his own self-image. This brings up new beginnings in what he wants with partnerships and finding balance within his relationship dynamics that will help him learn about give and take in relationships. Then we get to Virgo Pisces, which is very interesting because there is no Virgo Pisces in this chart. And this happens rarely. I've seen it happen a couple of times in all of the charts that I have read, but it very rarely happens. And Virgo Pisces is the axis of I analyze and I believe. It's the service axis, the service and healing axis. So this is January 2025 to July 2026. Now, because there is no Virgo Pisces in his chart, there is nothing that's going to be exactly tapped on for him during this time. However, we can look at the ruling planet, Mercury in Virgo and Neptune of Pisces, and see a little bit of what is going to be a preview of his 2028 to 2029. So this is where he can use this little break in the eclipse axis to sort of learn about communication and learn about processing any sort of childhood or ancestral traumas and issues that have come up. So this could be a time where he can learn about expressing through vulnerability a little bit and learning where he can sacrifice in order to sort of have more fun, letting go of these emotions and being able to have more fun and enjoying this kind of career and achievement space as a little preview to his future. So then the Leo Aquarius axis is going to be an interesting one because this is where he's going to start seeing the outcome of having not learnt where to express these emotions, because this is happening in the 6th and the 12th house, so deep subconscious and house of health, and it's happening with Uranus and Neptune, so the revolutionary change and also the dreamer addiction energy. Neptune also rules Pisces, and Pisces is about health, okay? So this is really learning how health is related to his subconscious mind because he's got all that Cancer energy, and it's allowing repressed emotions to build and the effects of that and how that affects your ability to maintain a healthy relationship with mind, body, spirit, and emotional states. So he will have to learn how to achieve this really comfortable level of self-care and this healthy relationship with his body by expressing these emotions in order to move towards his ideal career, or it will be a stopper in that. Okay. And so this is a really especially worrying time for Sam Walsh with all of that Cancer energy and that repressed emotional energy, because that really can affect his health. So with Neptune here, like I said, being the ruler of Pisces, who represents disease, addiction, escapist behaviors, and trying to run away from emotion, there could, with the rebellion energy of Uranus, we really could see some really dramatic movements and some really shaking up of these ideals for him in order for him to learn about these principles. So if he is on the right path, which he is in the right position to be in the right path, and he has developed some emotional coping skills, then this will still be a very transformative time for him, but it won't be as dangerous. And these sorts of energies that are going to show up for him during this time is about processing childhood trauma, about processing the way that he was allowed to express emotions as a child. And it really brings up feelings of depression, and it can really bring up learning things from profound emotional connections in your life. So a huge dramatic and emotional time period. There will be a number of issues that come up, whether that's injuries, whether that's family things, but a lot of emotional situations coming up in order for him to be able to learn to express emotions to maintain his health, which is highly important towards him achieving his career here. And then a really transformative one for him will be the Cancer Capricorn axis, which is from March 2028 until September 2029. And of course, with all of that Cancer energy in his chart, a lot of his whole psyche is about to flip on its head, okay? Now, this is looking at the complete realignment of all of these things. who he is as a person, his passions, his ego, how he deals with authority, and how he owns his own authority, how much attention he likes, what he likes to do to get it, his non negotiable emotional needs and desires, karmic triggers, how he deals with like growing older, how he communicates, how he connects with others, his sense of justice, his sense of self-worth, how he sees beauty and pleasure in the world, how he finds beauty and pleasure in the world, how he takes action, how he is impulsive, his leadership ideas of initiation. And this is all going to come out for him through his idea of family and roots, through his idea of emotional intelligence and nurturing himself, finding pleasure, finding fun within his career, in his social status, being able to feel like he is leaving a legacy through professional goals, and learning about his image based on his reputation within friendships, groups, and within teams. This whole period for him is going to be the uncovering of the karmic gifts of that disciplined Capricorn energy and the acceptance of him needing to have an emotionally safe place in order to progress forward. It is going to be a huge transformational time for him. And as we come through those axes, the Virgo Pisces giving him a little bit of a preview of this time, he really needs to use that time to work on an emotional daily habits system so that he learns how to process these emotions. Because once he gets to this Cancer Capricorn axis, if he has not learnt how to deal with these emotions, as with all of that Cancer energy in his chart, this is going to flip him on his head. And if he hasn't learnt it through the actions that are going to occur during the Leo Aquarius, which could very much be a lot of struggles with health for him, then this time is going to flip his life upside down in many ways. And if you've ever heard me talk about eclipse energy, this energy does not care about what you want. Its purpose is to realign you with your most balanced self, with your most effective and disciplined and soul-fulfilling goals, and it will do it through whatever means necessary. And those years between July 2026 and September 2029 are huge pivotal moments in his chart, in his own personal psyche, where he really needs to get a grasp on this idea of emotional repression. And if you are super interested in any of this, I have a small astrology series that talks about in particular just the sun signs at the moment we're running through, and the Cancer sun sign of a child, and how if we see their behavior in an incorrect way and we do not respond correctly, we can already be programmed, as a Cancer sun child can already be programmed to not have emotional release. And go and watch that if you're interested, if you're a Sam Walsh fan or you're more interested in that, because it's very interesting to see how certain behaviors present and how parents often see them and how we can, unintentionally go wrong. Okay, so make sure you check that out if you're interested in this. So after that complete upheaval in the Cancer Capricorn for him, after the potential health issues that could occur during that Leo Aquarius, he gets into this idea of his Gemini Sagittarius section, which is September 2029 until March 2031. And this is going to be expansion for him because, of course, he's had this complete transformation over the last few years. So expansion also in his core ideals, in his truths, in what he believes in, and in where he can find and build on this excessive confidence in himself, like finding those private strengths and weaknesses and how they relate to this Chiron wound that he has. So he will need to find power in that. And his Chiron wound is in Sagittarius. So that's really about needing to overachieve, right? It's a fear of not being able to achieve enough, and this fear of like not having power. And so he needs to transform that wound into understanding what his inner power is and using that for forward motion during this time. And this is unlocking his karmic gifts kind of energy and sort of seeing where he holds back on himself and lets himself down. And there will be explosive transformation and awakening during this time, and he's going to learn what he learn things about himself that he projects onto other people. And particularly with that Cancer energy, it does hold on to a lot of things, and it does project out through that Capricorn energy of requiring other people to follow your disciplinary rules. And he's going to learn about that. And there's going to be a lot of secrets that he's going to find out about himself, because Cancer energy, you know, as it grows up and starts to dig out all of these repressed emotions, it really starts uncovering secrets about itself that it has refused to look at this whole entire time. And that's going to be happening to him, like healing these wounds and finding these truths and beliefs is going to come out through communication and finding purpose for himself. And that leads him into his Saturn return. Okay. So all of this transformation, and as you can see, the people that are leading towards their Saturn return, they have these transformative periods happening beforehand, because once you hit your Saturn return, you are literally faced with the question of what sort of a man do you want to be, what sort of a woman do you want to be, what sort of an adult do you want to be, how do you want to show up in the world. Your Saturn return is a huge transformation in those things, and it asks you all of those questions. Who do you want to be on your own level? And so as we come up to our Saturn return, as proved here in the young men that are going to hit it after 2029, they will go through a number of transformations. And if they haven't developed any healthy coping skills emotionally, or healthy coping skills on any kind of escapist behaviors or woundings that they have, then they will hit this Saturn return pretty hard. Pretty hard. So in closing, on Sam Walsh, Terry being again spot on, that if he stays healthy, he will be a machine. And I hope he watches this, actually. I hope he gets to see this, and I hope they all do, because I am a firm believer that knowing these things about your birth chart are hints, tips, secrets, uncovering tips on how to best use the energy of the universe to progress, how to avoid certain things by working on the things that the energy is asking you to work on. So thank you for staying with me. If you stayed with me this long, I really enjoyed doing this research. So again, thank you, Terry, for your very short video that I have now turned into a whole research project. And if you are interested in any of my other videos, please like and subscribe. I do have a few more on AFL and astrology. And as I did last year, I will be providing updates throughout the whole AFL season on how the energy is affecting the games, how the energy is affecting the players, and I might even add in my own little tips about who I think is going to be winning based on the universal energy. And if you would like me to tell you about your birth chart in this same detailed manner and help point you in the right directions, I offer that as a service. Please check out my website for a birth chart reading. We can do it just me emailing you a hard copy of it, or we can do a little chat. We can have a little video call appointment and do it that way. I find it absolutely monumental in growth, and so do the clients that I see for this sort of thing. There are a number of different ways that we can get a reading, so please feel free to email me. My details are everywhere if you have any questions about what you can learn about yourself. I think that this research project was a really great example in what we can learn about ourselves through our birth chart, and I really look forward to seeing the progression over the next 5 years as well, as I know Terry does, even from his short video. So I hope you enjoyed it. I have a number of videos up about a lot of this astrological placement and birth chart readings on my channel, North and South Node, small astrology, a number of little updates on the energy, which I very much enjoy doing because I find it very helpful for myself. Please follow me on Instagram and TikTok if you are interested, and check out my website, like I said, if you are interested in any of these services. I really look forward to reading anyone's birth chart that comes to me, and holding that map in your hand is amazing to be able to move forward with. You can hold that map in your hand, and we can do astrological counseling about how the exact energy, like I have done here, of these eclipse periods, how that will affect you and what you can do to prepare, and how you can work on certain areas of yourself. So please hit me up if you are interested in any of that. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you give Terry some love on that video as well, because as I always say to him, his channel and his videos are a pivotal energy in collective change. And I say a big thank you to all of the Carlton supporters, all of the Blues, and to Pom, who has in the past called me the Carlton Witch, which I enjoy being. I'm very happy for this season to start, and I'm very excited to see these boys progress through this energy. And I hope you enjoyed this research project as much as I did. And as always, friends, as always, never be afraid to walk into your shadow and learn things about yourself that other people might not recognize you with afterwards. Never be afraid to walk out your front door as a completely evolved human being. Always face your shadow. And until next time, go Blues and stay weird.